All right, welcome to the Refined Strength Podcast. I have one of my good friends, David Dodrill, here in the house in Dallas. And yeah, so we're going to talk about some body dysmorphia today.
Did you say good friend?
Yeah, best friend.
There you go.
Best friend. My best friend, David. So I've known David since 2021. My first Arnold. Yeah. So,
but I weirdly saw your Instagram and everything way before I met you.
I mean, everybody did.
Yeah.
Famous. So,
yeah.
We met at the Arnold. He works for, David is the VP of sales for Arms Race Nutrition, and he also does a lot of work for all the other brands under Doug Miller. Doug Miller is my boss. I work for Core as well. And so David pretty much just like travels the country telling stories to
buy products. Telling stories.
telling stories.
Essentially, I travel and I tell stories.
Yeah. So, and right now you're in Dallas to visit Man Sports and visit some other stores, do some things.
Yeah. Working on Myo Blocks, that launch. And then, a few meetings set aside for some GNCs and vitamin shops. And, yeah.
Tell the podcast audience who you are. And just who you are and like.
I really wish I was cool enough to pull a Jay Cutler and just be like, I'm David Dodrill, and then be like, okay, let's get Ariana. No, I'm not that cool. You kind of already said who I am. David Dodrill.
I told them what you do. That's not who you are.
That's kind of who I am at this point in my life. So David Dodrill, VP of Sales of Arms Race. I'm also a dad. Huge music fan. Turning into a weird druggie. Not like an actual druggie, just like marijuana.
Enjoying drugs. It's okay. We can enjoy drugs here.
Responsibly, not open to close of my day. Just going through some shit, so like before bed, it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Exactly. Other than that, that's that to the brim of everything going on in my life. Like that is who I am. It's work. It's everything I put into that. I used to bodybuild, former bodybuilder. Now I'm just a dad, essentially.
Dad bod.
Yeah.
Life.
Dad bod life.
I did coach David for a while until he gave up because. Do you want to talk about why you gave up? It's an okay excuse. It's the only excuse I really will accept.
So, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. Stage 3, nothing crazy. But yeah, it was funny. Rachel wanted me to go check my blood work, and I did. And so this is why you check your blood work, kids.
Yeah.
I'm young. It's not. I'm not gonna die. Like that's kind of the overarching.
Yeah. He's okay.
When I told Doug, he was just like, "What do you want me to do? Can't do anything." And he goes, "Why'd you tell me?" And I was like, "Everyone said I should tell you." Been dealing with that. I'm in a good spot, but yeah, it's kind of rebounding. I will say I felt like that killed my test levels a lot.
Yeah. Going through radiation is going to kill a lot.
Yeah, and it's like, I text you through a lot of that shit. But yeah, that was one of the most overarching things. Like when I got my test levels checked and it was so low, I was like, well, fuck. Like, what do I do now? Working with her core, Doug has all his things, the Big Papa stack and things like that. But it's really looking at the longevity of it. The fact is, like, I'm never going to take enough tests again to where I'm bodybuilding. At this point in my life, I just want to be healthy. I want to feel good. I want to look good.
Yeah.
Like, that's just getting back to that and feeling good in your own skin, which is a feeling I've probably never have felt.
So talk about that. Like, why, like, kind of go over your journey and, like, how you've thought of, like, your body and just body dysmorphia in general.
So I'm going to try to break this down the best that I can. I do tend to just think out loud and don't pre-speak.
That's okay.
But overarching, I had parents that were not around growing up. I was fed off McDonald's and Burger King. By the time I got to be like 17-ish, I weighed 428 pounds. And within 1 year, I had gotten in trouble in my school. And I went away for a little bit. And I picked up a Muscle and Fitness magazine. My favorite wrestler was on the cover. It was Triple H. And I just remember staring at that, being like, I gotta look like that guy. Like, that's what I want to look like.
And you're still at your heaviest at that point?
Yes.
Right?
And I don't know what happened. It wasn't diet or anything like that, but something clicked. And what I'm about to say, I don't recommend, but I was doing 4 hours of cardio a day, eating probably 300 calories. Yeah, see? The coach in you is like, don't recommend that at all. But I lost 190 in a year. And I just kept watching the scale go down, and I got so obsessive doing that. So I have a very addictive personality, which is why I never did try drugs previously, or gambling or any of that. But what was happening was I was falling in love with watching the scale go down. So weekly, I would have it set in my head to where I had to go do cardio, 1,000 calories had to be burnt before I do anything else. I'm so like OCD just with numbers. Mm-hmm. Like that is...
You're not successful unless you reach a number.
Yes. And anything below that, I'm like, well, fuck, I didn't do anything. Mm. Like I need those numbers. I need like the 5s, the 0s,
What do you think made you be like that so early on? Like what caused you to think this is the number, this is what I gotta do?
Mental illness.
Expand on that.
The older I've gotten, I have just learned that I do have these little quirks. I don't know if it's a form of autism. I'm just trying to figure it out current day and pay more attention to my mind and why I'm doing certain things. But everything I do has to have a 5 or a 0 in it. I don't know why, but I get really obsessive. Like, I can't stop doing cardio if I'm like 3 minutes in. It's really weird. Like Doug if I'm working out with Doug, he'll do a warm up and he does like 3 to 5 minutes. But I'll notice he'll get on the treadmill, he'll warm up, he'll walk off. I cannot stop at the weird time he does. Like he knows his body, but I'm just mentally like, I need to be locked into this. You're
concerned with a number based on like basically an imaginary rule that you're creating for yourself, whereas he, and for those of you that don't know who Doug Miller is, like you should know who he is. Just look at him and you'll understand what I'm about to say. Is like he is very self-aware.
There.
And I think the best bodybuilders and the people with the most control over their bodies and their aesthetics, but also their health, they're that way because of how self-aware they are, not based on, they don't need the rules. They just know. Like, I used to need the rules a lot more for myself, like when I first started bodybuilding, and like just looking after my diet and stuff like that, I thought like, okay, I have to have these foods, or I have to hit these macros perfectly, and if I don't, I didn't think I was a failure, but I definitely thought that I can do better.
Yep.
And it took a long time to really realize that like your body doesn't care about the number of minutes you were on the treadmill or the number of calories you burned, because that's not even real anyway. Your body doesn't care about the macros. It what matters is like what it's doing and how it's feeling and like your connection to it.
Yeah. Which is another thing, like I feel current day, it's really funny. I was talking this about Chris Gethin. Chris Gethin is now my accountability buddy.
Okay.
Which is really sick because the first bodybuilding workouts I ever did was Chris Gethin's workouts.
From bodybuilding.com?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, back when they used to like send you like a duffel bag full of like a bunch of free shit and a little signed letter. So Chris is now my accountability buddy. And I was kind of telling him the other week, I was like, my issue is I don't like the freedom of macros. And I think you kind of saw that with me too.
Oh, for sure.
I'm so oriented with tell me exactly what I need to eat. Mm-hmm. I want the gram of protein, I want the carb, I want the vegetable. If I can have those in my life and I can get it done on Sunday, I'm good. I freak out when my plan goes off track. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when you keep your car clean. And I don't know if anybody else is like this, but I've just personally noticed it in my nice little van life of traveling. If I get my car detailed, I'm happy. I'll keep it as clean as possible. But if something goes wrong and let's say I throw a can on the ground, not too long by the end of my trip will that kind of just grow a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Because once it's messed up a little bit, it just goes into...
It spirals. If I could kind of sum up the way I diet in general, it's that.
Yeah. I mean, that's how most people do things, and that's why they end up spinning their wheels, is because they just like, they can't ride that midline, and they can't go from following the plan to following the plan at 90%, they have to either be 100 or 0.
Correct. And that's kind of how I want to be 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I will always outwork people. Like Doug calls it, I can't say the word, something strength. It's the R word. He doesn't mean it in a derogatory term. But I mentally, when I train with Doug, I have to outperform him in something. It's just,
it's hard to do.
It's hard to do. And I'll push myself to do it, but he'll always go, like, David, you're good for one great set. And it's because I'll find my groove, and there's something with training with Doug where it's like, you want to beat him. You want to be better than Doug. I know at this point in my life that'll never happen. But during the workout, I will go out guns a-blazing, like, okay, I'm going to out-squat him. And I'll always ask him before we work out, like, how'd you do it? He'll be like, he learned, like, to quit telling me the number.
Interesting.
Because if he does 20, I'm doing 21.
Yeah.
Like, I need that. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but I do. And it's just really interesting to look back on, like, my life and see that a lot of things that I do are always around achieving a certain goal that really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I beat Doug for that one, right?
So why do you think, since you're very aware of this, and like...
How's it hard to correct?
Yeah.
Hopefully they tell me in therapy. I started that too, so...
When did you start therapy?
Last week.
Okay, week 1. He's doing good, guys. Okay, so how do you feel like you have changed in terms of like how you view your body and its performance and just all of this since like that time when you lost all that weight initially?
So it's aging too, right? I really miss the idea. I hope that picked up on the microphone.
Hopefully.
I'll always go back to like bodybuilding. And when I would travel for shows, and I would never do bodybuilding shows close to me. I didn't agree with local shows at the time. Mm-hmm. And I got called a cocky asshole for it a lot. But it's like I needed to go to New York. I needed to go to the Kentucky Muscle. I needed to get out of just my small valley. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like when you compete, like I don't want to win based upon... You and I have gotten into a fight on this one.
Politics.
I don't want to win based upon, oh, that guy lost all this weight.
Yeah.
Like, he's known in this community. Like, he should win. I don't like that. I want to go up against people that I've never met before where it's my hard work that made me win.
Yeah. I think that's really important for all competitors to do at some point in their career because, especially if you want to get a pro card, once you become a pro, you have to do that. You can't just compete locally anymore. I as a figure pro, like there's not that many figure pro shows, so like I can't compete in Texas outside of like a couple shows a year.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't line up with my timeline, like I have to compete somewhere else. So with local, I go to a lot of shows too, like I work a lot of shows and so many people show up the same every year.
Yep.
Like they show up to the same show every year, most of the time looking the same and expecting either different results or they're just doing it kind of like for fun or they know that they know what the competition is like at the show, and I think this is what you're talking about, and so like they know they can beat people because it's like a small show and they know they can just come in blazing and look great and win.
I went to my hometown 5 days ago now, and there is this elderly gentleman that was doing cardio. He competes at the local show every year. In Masters. Mm-hmm. He is the only competitor.
How old is he?
Probably like, I'd say 62 now.
Okay, yeah.
But that's an issue to me. Like, I love that he's doing it, and he's doing it for himself. Mm-hmm. And, he's probably doing the art of what everybody tells you. You're only competing against yourself. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't really get diced. He doesn't really get lean.
Yeah, most of the people that compete year after year don't, and they don't look better every year. A lot of times, like, they start looking worse, especially, like, if they're not doing anything differently. Some people are doing it because they're trophy hunting and they just want to say they did it, but they're also looking at, like, their individual community and, like, everyone around them hypes them up. And
Side note, this has nothing to do. This is my squirreling. You said trophy hunting. What was the brand that started years ago? I think it was 7 years ago. It was a new federation. Somebody left the NPC and they started doing it. Was it NSL where they gave away title belts, like WWE, like championship belts?
I
You
don't
remember
know.
that?
There's so many different federations.
I've just
that,
personally, I've always wanted a title belt if I was competing.
I mean, some NPC shows will do that. Like, because NPC
sign me
shows,
up.
like, the promoters, they can choose whatever they want to be the trophy.
Yeah.
So, but fun fact, no NPC shows are allowed to do weapons, like swords, anymore, or, like, axes.
Did that just start?
It literally just started last year. I was having dinner with some judges in Vegas when I did a show over there a few weeks ago. And they said, yeah, because at one of their shows, I think it was one of their shows, it might have been a muscle contest show, but I'm not sure, but someone got a sword, like an overall sword, and they like took it out of the sheath and were playing around with it after the show, and someone got cut. And they tried to
It was a white guy, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think it was a girl, actually. So someone got cut. They tried to sue the promoter because of insurance reasons and everything. Like they took it to the NPC, lots of back and forth, and then I don't know what ended up happening legally. So
why don't you just
don't quote me? But I don't know. But the NPC like ruled that no weapons are allowed to be given out now. So I think hammers, like the big Thor's hammers, those are fine because Wasatch still does that, but that's like the only exception.
That's interesting.
Yeah, fun fact.
That is so that's so dumb.
Yeah. No axes, no swords, sorry.
Well, I've never been a fan of the swords. I like the trophies, but when NSL did the championship belts, I'm like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do classic physique now, and I'm going to be amazing. And then I became a dad, and that didn't happen.
So how has becoming a dad like changed your outlook on anything? Like things like, especially when it comes to body image and like your own, like everything you're talking about with yourself and how you know how you are. How has that changed?
Horrible. And again, I'm just very aware. I'm very aware of like, you know, I went to the beach with my ex like 2 years ago, and I'll never forget this. I don't like being shirtless in public. I don't. Right. Do I look horrible? No. But I would remember when I was competing, I would only become shirtless when I stepped on stage. I'd, wear like a zip up or something like that. So me and my ex went to the beach, and she clearly said, like, these people don't care what you look like.
Yeah, it's true.
Awesome, but it's not mentally about the other people. It's about how I feel about myself. So I feel like that self-confidence and things like that, there's days I feel good, right? But there's a lot of days I don't feel great. And if you're not in a good space mentally, the other shit kind of follows. I'm not really judging my life based upon other people. I don't give a shit about other people,
right,
to be honest. But it's my quality of life and how I feel self-respected. Mm-hmm. So with becoming a dad, it really sucks. And I'm going to say this as a dad of a 7-year-old. I've always had this goal that I just wanted to be comfortable enough to take my daughter to the beach and not feel insecure. Mm-hmm. And again, what I'm saying is so stupid because it's like, well, who gives a shit? Just go do it, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's a normal person. But I'm just so uncomfortable to do it. And still to this day, like we've gone to the beach, but like I'm not shirtless in the water playing with her. I'd love to get to that point. And I feel like I'm running out of time for that due to the age she is. So it's like, shit.
What's standing in your way?
Right now it's mentally getting back on track with my life, I'm definitely in a process right now of figuring back out who I really am. Mm-hmm. I tied my life to like 6 years with the same person. So it's like, I feel like a lot of people lose themselves in that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you just don't align in a lot of ways with the person. Like, I think I've definitely experienced this where like you stay with one person because you convince yourself or they convince you to think that like you'll never find anything better.
They're a good person.
Or you convince yourself. Yeah, for sure. Like I was married to someone who like I convinced myself that he was a good person and he wasn't. And like that was really hard recognizing that like no, he's not a good person. You married a bad person and you had some good times, but like they weren't so good that it's worth staying. Yeah. And whether you're the one who's breaking it up or is being broken up with, it's like when you realize that someone is not for you, you have to let that go and like know that like that was a time in your life and some part of you needed that so that you can now be in this time in your life where you're figuring out like who you are outside of that relationship.
When me and my ex broke up, there was one thing she said to me, and I think it'll stick with me till the day I die, to be honest. We were just having a conversation, and she cried, and she goes, I didn't give up on you. You gave up on yourself. And in that moment, she probably wasn't wrong, right?
Yeah,
like,
probably
I
not.
dive so hard into work, you know, and I think a lot of people can relate to this aspect. It's like, you want to be good in something, and I understand I'm a workaholic. Totally fucking get it. If I'm not just hanging out with my kid, I'm working in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I was so fixated on growing the brands, growing Arms Race, growing all this shit. And I think my health and everything about me kind of went to the wayside. I kind of put my relationship to the wayside. I just focused on work.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm totally aware that, like, a lot of my shit is very self-inflicted, and I think everybody can kind of own up to that, right? Like, we are our own worst enemies. You can logically tell yourself anything, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to figure shit out. You cannot rely on other people to do it.
Nobody's coming to save you.
No.
You have to, like, people.
Wait, what's that one Rob Bailey quote that I stupidly tattooed on my arm? When the time comes, there will not be enough people to bury the dead. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you proud of that tattoo?
No. It's ironic.
Yeah.
At this point in my life, it's ironic.
But it is true. Like, you have to be 100% responsible for yourself.
Yes.
Like, if the more we decide that, like, oh, I'll be better when this happens, or I'll be better when, like, I get this raise or bonus, or when I get this job, or when I can go to the beach with my daughter, like, you're gonna be waiting forever. And I think, like, with the phase of life you're in right now, where, like, you're newly single, you are still dealing with, like, remnants of that, and you're also working on just, like, yourself in your career and in your, like, with your health and everything. Like, you have gotten, like, you have a new lease on life, and you're able to, it's not too late.
No.
But every time you think, like, it's too late or it's getting too late, like, you're just taking away time.
And that is one of my favorite things. That's the only good aspect of the internet, right? Like, you can watch so many people that have turned their life around at, like, fucking 50.
Yeah.
But, you know, I always think back to, like, when I grew up, I didn't play sports. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I really wish I would have. I wish I would have started sooner. So it's all about, at least current day, start today.
Yeah.
Don't wait for Monday. I hate that. People that just wait for Mondays.
Yeah.
I
Or
can't
wait
stand
till the
that
next
shit.
month or something like that. But, like,
My crash diets start midweek when I get a fucking random idea, and I'm like, no, this starts today.
it starts today. Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
last for 4 days.
So we're going back to, like, being a dad and, like, seeing how you've changed over time as you've watched your daughter grow up. Like, how do you feel like you can serve not only her but yourself as you both grow up?
It's actually a really good question. I'm a little bit more logical now. You know, I think we all come to, like, this whole idea that your life is supposed to be a certain way. And the biggest thing about being a dad is you always want to do the right thing, and you always want to give them something to, like, you want to teach them, right? Mm-hmm. But the weirdest shit is my daughter's teaching me.
How so?
I'm going to seem like a butthead. I made fun of somebody she was watching on YouTube in front of her. I should not have done that. But, like, I'm watching this show, and it's an awful
it's
show.
probably
It's
shitty.
so bad.
Yeah, for sure.
And I go, Liv, like, her nose is just big. And she stares at me and she goes, it's not about the outside. It's what's on the inside. And she's probably a really good person.
Oh, wow.
And then I stare at her and I was like, you're right. I'm like, and she does stuff like that. So it's like, it's really funny because current day, you know, I do try to teach her to eat the right things. But she just naturally understands certain things. So I hope at least what I'm doing from my perspective being a dad is at least some of the good qualities. I don't have a lot of good qualities, but at least some of the good qualities.
You have a lot of good qualities.
I appreciate
it.
But that was me trying to feed for a compliment, probably, mentally. Yeah. I'm working it out with my therapist. I'm just figuring out. But I hope that at least the good aspects of what I'm doing, she's picking up on. And so I do like to feel a little bit more responsible for when she says things like that. Should I have made fun of a little kid in that moment? No. But I at least, that sounds horrible, but at least I know that she's a very kind human,
Yeah.
And she's on the right track. Like,
well,
her heart is amazing.
Kindness, I think, can be taught from a young age, but, like, it's mostly, like, repeated. And so, like, even though, yeah, you made fun of that kid in that moment, you're still overall a kind, good person. Like, at your core, that's who you are, and she sees that.
Yes.
And she also sees, like, she sees so much. Like, kids are really receptive, and they see everything around them. And so, like, she also hears what you say to her. And so I know that you're really aware of how you talk to her about who she is.
My voice goes up like 9 octaves when I talk to her. It's like, hi, Liv. How are you? Like, it's like, oh, wow, I got that in me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she's picked up on that. Like, what's really fun is bringing her around other people. And I'll kind of just stick on the health side of this. But still to this day, she will only drink water.
That's awesome.
And I like to think that it's because I carried around a jug for 6 years of her life.
Well, and like, you introduce kids to things like juice and Capri Sun because you think, like, oh, these are kid things, but, like, kids need water too. Yeah. Like, kids need to be hydrated, really, like, just like adults do.
And granted, she became way more into cookies than I would have liked, but I'll never forget there was, like, a year ago where I was trying to be a little bit of, like, you deserve some cookies. Mm-hmm. And she grabs this pack for me and she goes, Dad, I'm a child, I'll have one. And I was trying to give her, like, this little pack, this personal pack of cookies. Yeah. And she's just like, I'll have one. So it's like, I like to think that at least the crazy stuff I've done in moderation and weighing out things for years, she has picked up on that.
Yeah.
Because the hardest part, like, I want her to love herself.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, I don't think I did. Mm-hmm. I've loved her, just not myself. But I've always loved her. But I do think she's picking up on that. And I'm definitely to a point to where current day, I'm like, am I running out enough time to love myself? Mm-hmm. Because I don't want her to grow up thinking I wasn't happy or be confident. Like, I know I'm Superman in her eyes.
Yeah.
But I also have this need that I want to feel that way too about myself.
Well, I think one thing in, like, how to do that, and I talk to my clients who are parents too. I was just talking to a guy the other day who has 2 boys, and he's talking about competing for the first time, and I said, like, you know, he has, like, some doubts, obviously, and some, like, wondering, like, am I doing too much? Am I taking time away from family by working out and stuff like that? And I said, like, honestly, like, your kids, they may not see it now, but, like, they're going to see that later. They're going to see you showing up for yourself and speaking kindly about yourself and not making fun of yourself or say, like, I'm not going to do that because I'm too fat right now or whatever. Like, so many kids really hear everything we say about ourselves, not just, like, the parents, but, like, parents' friends.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. Like, they're always listening. And so if you can she thinks you're Superman.
100%.
But what if you chose to believe her more in her thought of you? And let that tell you, like, you are Superman. You can do everything that you want to do.
In a weird way, I do believe it. I'm just not to that point yet.
Yeah. Like,
I'm getting there, and I'm almost back to normal. And, you know, I say that because everybody, you know, I've always been open with you. Like, let me compliment you on your own little thing. You have been probably the closest person in my life that I've had in a long time. To where it's like, I feel open enough to call you about any of my issues. You listen to all my stupid shit. And there's a lot of it, right? Like, there's a lot of and I know you just want to wring my neck most days. You're like, just fucking listen to me. But it's just like, you know, if I didn't have you, and I thought about this recently, I don't know where I would be, to be completely honest. Because a lot of the shit that I've dealt with in the last year, it's just been very hard to swallow. Like, I got dealt a shitty hand consistently, personally and professionally. Like, fucking open up, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and it's like, you know, you've been kind of the core to kind of help me through a lot of that. And I've always appreciated that. So it's like, I know it's there, right? I attract people and friends like you, which is always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
It means I'm doing the right things. Mm-hmm. If other people don't see the same thing in me, cool, I don't need that. But, you know, that's at least showing me that I do have the potential to do something cool. And, you know, I got a sick life. Like, I do. Like, no one else in this entire world has my job, right?
Yeah.
The confidence thing is just a hard pill to swallow, but I'm getting better. So I just want to say I'm getting better, and you're a huge part of that. That was a long way to kind of say that, but this is where I don't kind of plan what I say. I just kind of talk.
That's okay. Same.
Yeah. It makes it easier.
What do you feel like, what you just mentioned, like things that I've done for you in terms of like listening and giving you advice, whatever, like how can you do that more for yourself, do you think? And how could others do that more for themselves, like if they don't have someone to go to?
So full transparency, and this gets really funny, she has a boyfriend now.
Yeah.
And I've kind of had to do that. And I've told myself that from perspective, right? Like, I don't bother you as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Because you have your own life, right? Like, but when you didn't have a boyfriend,
I just had more time, you know?
Yeah, had more time.
When you live alone, you do have more time for friends and having conversations and stuff like that. And I think when you're building a partnership with someone, like you're obviously giving more energy to
Correct.
that.
Absolutely. No, there wasn't a knock at that.
Yeah.
It was more of I didn't have you mentally to call anymore as much. Because I'm so like, live your life. We all grow up and we all have more shit to do. But I've always told myself, like, what would Rachel do in this moment? What would Rachel say to me? Because, and we've had this conversation, you're a little bit of a bitch.
Yeah.
But not in a mean way. You're just blunt, right? And so I've been telling myself more blunt things, and it probably stems from you a little bit.
What's something you've told yourself recently like that?
You're not fat, just go fucking do it.
Yeah.
Again, it's like during can you say the 2019 to 2022 thing on these anymore? Does it like bleep it out?
Oh.
Let's just say the vid.
Yeah.
During that, I gained like 30 pounds and I was like, I don't understand this. And, again, going through everything, trying to lose weight again. And especially being in this industry, right? Like, you know how hard it is to be in the middle of Doug Miller and Julian Smith?
Yeah.
And not be as lean as them 24/7? That's why it sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, man. But yeah, it's that kind of stuff. My confidence is slowly coming back. I'm paying a lot more attention. I only got this Oura ring because of you.
Oh, that's an Oura ring?
Yeah.
It's like
silicone cover.
Oh wow. You really care about the not scuffing it up.
Hey, I'm all about making sure you have your rubbers. That sounded weird. You ever train with this thing?
Yeah, I do. I just take it off for deadlifts.
Oh.
But I also I know that it's just a ring, like it's a fitness tracker, so I don't need to be pristine. It doesn't have diamonds on it.
But you would always ask me certain information that you got from your ring. Mm-hmm. And so this was one of the little things that I got for myself to be able to answer your questions. You would ask me more.
Yeah.
So because you'd be like, how's your sleep? How's this? And I was like, oh shit, I don't know. So let me get this. Let me spend $300 on a ring.
You like spending money, so.
Don't say that. Doug's going to run with that. He yelled at me for...
It's okay. You're doing better with your budgeting. Made him coffee instead of letting him Uber Eats an energy drink to my house.
I hope Doug Miller does not watch this.
Yeah, he probably won't.
No.
But that's what's up.
He doesn't have that time.
No, definitely not. What were we talking about?
Originally it was body dysmorphia, and we didn't even really cover any of that.
Okay, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of body dysmorphia?
Doug Miller.
Okay, go.
And it made me feel much better about myself. Okay. So I've always gotten along with females better, and I think it's because females have bad body image issues. Well, so do I.
So you can relate to them more?
I can relate to the feeling, the feeling like you just don't know what to do sometimes. And just the negative aspects of how people view themselves, right?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more patient than the average person, especially as a guy, too. Like, I've just been dealt a different hand.
Yeah.
It's just the way I grew up. But, like how Doug is, which I thought was very interesting, is Doug looks amazing. And I don't know if he's comfortable with me saying this, but I'm sure he is. I've never seen him shirtless.
Oh,
think about it.
Yeah, he doesn't really do that.
He has never built a brand on skin. Like he's very open about that. So if you're ever thinking of joining core and wearing bikinis or being shirtless, don't do it. But the thing is, it's like if I looked like Doug Miller, I would walk around naked.
So I think this is interesting because like this is something that like I've seen a lot more of like on my side of things, like being a pro bodybuilder, being like jacked and being shredded at times and stuff like that, is like people who are really used to looking like that don't typically like want as much attention.
Correct.
It's the people that are in the first few years of their journey of being like that like the first time they get really lean, or the first time they get like super jacked.
Shirtless pictures every single day.
Yeah, the first time they go on a cycle or whatever. And like generally like competitive bodybuilders or just people who are you know, going back and forth, like they're like, we're wearing oversized shirts and we're doing, you know, you're not taking your shirt off every chance you get at the gym. When you go to a gym that's very like influencer heavy, it's usually the people that look the most mid that like are taking their shirts off and posing in the mirror. Like granted, us bodybuilders do that too. Like, you know, from time to time, like I'll tell Austin like, you should take your shirt off so I can like take a picture of him in the gym because he looks awesome. And like I know that there'll be times in prep where I'll do the same thing, but at the same time it's like I'm not walking around like that all the time just because of how I look.
Correct.
Because it's just like you get kind of tired of the attention almost.
Yeah.
I think there is some body dysmorphia in there for sure for some people, but I think a lot of it is just like you're so used to it. Like
he doesn't like the attention. So like he doesn't like somebody come like if Doug was shirtless at a beach, right? And he doesn't either. Which again, that's something like I in my heart really bonded with him over. But he goes, what? So somebody can come up to me and ask me how much I bench.
Yeah,
and that's a fact. I mean, it's that. You know, he has some insecurities with like certain muscles developing and things like that. You know, the thing the average person wouldn't notice. And I think that's the most important part of body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
The thing that you are so hung up on about yourself, that most people are, no one else is noticing.
Pretty much.
It's you.
Yeah.
It's just you. You know, it's no different. And I honestly love to talk about this. Your boobs.
Boobs.
I feel that was a personal choice for you.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to feel... One, I think you did it more for competing. I don't think it was an overall...
Not really. No, I did it because, like, I literally always wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Like, there was a start time, like, in my adolescence, like, in high school. I was like, you know, everyone goes through puberty, and, like, that's when girls develop boobs, and then some don't. And, like, every woman in my family is really broad, like, big-chested.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. And so...
Relatable.
Yeah. And so I go through, like, early adulthood, and then I get into competing, like, when I was 22, 23, I think, and I just was never, like, it got even worse, so, like it does for females. And then when I was married, like, I remember sharing that with my husband at the time, that I wanted to eventually do that one day, get a breast augmentation, and he was really against it. Like, he was super insecure, and didn't like the idea of me getting attention from them.
The most insecure thing.
Oh, for sure. And so I, like, kind of tabled it and just thought, like, well, maybe I'll, you know, bring it up again in a few years. And then, you know, I divorced him and used my ring to pay for my boobs. So it sucks for him.
Even trade.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, yeah, that's more why I got them. Yeah.
That's great.
Because, yeah, fucking. So I got them more for me and feeling more feminine, because as a big muscular girl, it's like easy
You're a
for
big
me
girl.
to... Yeah, I'm a big girl. I don't feel as feminine automatically. Like, my femininity kind of goes down with being bigger, as like in a muscular way, especially when you don't have boobs. So for me, like, it was I guess partially because of competing, but it wasn't to enhance my career. It was to enhance, like, my own self image and just like how I looked.
So
you know?
You're a very confident person.
Yeah. But I was even confident before I did that.
Yeah, 100%. And I've looked at your past.
Yeah.
This sounds weird. But do you feel so much more better about yourself due to that, confidence-wise? Like, do you feel like you are wearing some of the clothing you do based upon you got the surgery, you feel better about you, and you're proud to flaunt it?
So yes and no. I think like a lot of things that I wear now, I wouldn't have worn without that because of the fact that I didn't like how I looked in that kind of thing before.
Yeah.
Like something like a low cut top. I wore a lot more like high necked shirts or things like that. But it's mostly just me, like I like how I feel and how I look, and I like the look of certain types of clothing. And so now, like, okay, I can wear that and feel good in it. So there's some things that, like, when you're flat chested, you just, like, can't really wear and look right in, especially as a muscular female, in my opinion. And so everyone's a little different in how they view that, but, like, that was it for me. Is
Well,
like,
me personally, I'm 5'8", and the things I like I think of like Noel Sweeney.
mm-hmm.
Noel Sweeney dresses how I would like to dress.
Okay.
I don't have the smallest legs in the world. I can't wear skinny jeans.
No.
I can't wear a lot of this.
Okay, it's still recording, so that's good. At least.
Everybody's going to have to see that I just instantly start working. As soon as I think it's over.
Okay. Try it again. Try this again. Okay, we'll just cut that out a little bit when we're done. Okay.
Doug Miller just texted me the word zaddy.
Nice. Alright, we're back. Okay, you're talking about things that you like to wear.
Yeah,
that
no
you
Sweeney.
can't wear.
No
Yeah.
Sweeney. He, like, I have calves, I have all that. But, like, my dream body is probably skinny and no muscle. And it's really funny.
Can't relate.
I know, right? Don't get me wrong. It's like, whoa. Like, Ryan Reynolds, that's probably...
He has some muscle though.
But that's what I mean. Like, he's lean, but, like, he looks good.
But he has more muscle than, like, you couldn't really call him skinny unless you're an open bodybuilder.
Correct.
You know, like, or morbidly obese.
Yes.
You know? So,
I've deeply fallen, I wouldn't say out of love. Like, I will always love bodybuilding. I love the sport. But for being a dad in my life, it's just, I don't need it anymore, right? Like...
Right. But what rules do you feel like you're still putting on yourself because of that part of your life?
All of it. The way I eat, the way everything.
Okay.
It's still heavy bodybuilder influence.
So if
everything
your
I do.
dream body is different than that, what do you need to do to achieve that, do you think?
Hire you as my new coach again? No, I'm joking. As much as I love you, now I got Chris Gethin.
So much better.
He's not that much better. But that's the thing. I'm figuring that part out. I've been pretty consistent lately with like my food. I have a personal goal. Like I'm gonna try to drop 40 pounds by July.
Okay.
And I'm gonna do some crazy shit to do it. But I'm trying to push myself to do the high intensity and cardio again and things like that. That's one thing that like I miss doing. Like I used to do a lot of HIIT cardio.
Why do you feel that's the best thing for you?
I've just noticed my body change faster doing it.
When?
When I was doing like shows and dieting. Like
How long ago was that?
5 years?
Did you have cancer then?
No.
Okay, cool. Did you...
Oh, here's Rachel. Here we go.
Like, I'm just asking because think about how much our bodies change over time. You were also 5+ years younger, so you were a totally different body.
Yep, 100%.
Hormonal differences, for sure. Not going to be on the same types or levels of gear. Like, there's so much that, like...
And I sit a lot. Like, no matter what. Like, I travel a lot.
Yeah.
But that's where I was like, I just need to figure out my body. And I'm still in that ballpark of figuring it out. Like, I think HIIT cardio, for me, I've just always... It feels like kicked your ass. And
Right, but that's not always the best thing for you.
Oh, 100%.
Especially when you have a high amount of inflammation already, that's part of something that's holding you back from making progress is inflammation. So why would
I feel like everybody's just seeing you scold me right now.
I mean, this is the podcast. This is how it goes sometimes. I'm just saying, like, think about your ideal body.
Yep.
And yes, there's people that get there with extremes, but they also have different bodies than you, and they have a different history than you, and they have a different mind than you. And so generally, like, your focus is not on bodybuilding anymore, it's about being healthy. And
Correct.
that's not a healthy way to get to your goal.
Agreed.
So why would you do it?
To meet the deadline.
Right, but you know logically that the deadline means nothing. Is anyone going to die if you don't meet the deadline?
So...
Is your daughter not going to love you if you don't meet the deadline?
No.
Exactly. Are you going to lose your job if you don't meet the deadline?
That's a weird thing. I can't actually address why. Just know that, it's a job thing.
Okay.
I'm not leaving or anything. But, yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Stay tuned.
When the
You can follow along on David's journey through his silly diet and intensity thing.
You know, think about when you met me. Was I doing carnivore then? Or I did carnivore in 2022?
Yes, you're doing carnivore then. Pretty sure.
I felt the best then.
Right, but you couldn't stick to it.
Correct. Well,
I mean,
I could.
end of the day, you couldn't stick to it.
I stuck to it for 3 months. And then some other influence of who I work with.
Right.
Yeah.
So you couldn't stick to it.
I couldn't stick to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you felt your best until you couldn't stick to it, and like the reality of the world and like how people live their lives is like it's not something you can stick to.
Well, but I also
Like,
think it was more of a
long term.
a mental thing, right? Like I talk about, like my body fluctuates weight ridiculously. I do think it's something that I could have stuck to if as soon as I had one bad meal, I went right back on it. But it goes back to the whole car example. Mm-hmm. Once I fuck up something, oh God, it's off the rails.
Well, so wouldn't that tell you that you need more of a balanced approach?
100%.
And to understand that your body can do better with a more balanced approach?
Yes.
So why wouldn't you just do a more balanced approach? Because it's better for your body, it's better for your life, it's better for everybody around you, and it's better for your health. Why wouldn't you just do that? Because then you can live your life like that all the time.
I mean, do you want to come prep my food?
No, but you can prep your food like for a balanced approach just as easy as you could prep for carnivore.
Oh, 100%. Carnivore, that whole idea came from, there's nothing that I believe, like, I don't think carnivore is better for you than anything else. It's not, right?
Definitely
but it was something I really wanted to test out with the travel. Like, I mean, if I look at my last week, I did Jersey to Pittsburgh to home. I get to be dad for 2 days, Friday, Saturday, and then I hit the road back again Sunday, flew to Texas, and then on this week, I will fly back on Friday. On Saturday, I will take my daughter to Unicorn World, and then Sunday night, I'll leave and I'll go pick up Doug Miller, and I'm driving to Virginia.
Right.
So it is a personal thing that I need to do better with, I wouldn't say setting boundaries, but making sure I'm always trying to fit everything in for everybody else. And I have a really hard time.
How has that worked out for you so far?
It has fucking backfired in every single way.
Okay.
I go out of my way to do nice things for people, and
so
I get shit on.
When can you start looking out for yourself?
Yesterday. Is that a good answer?
No. It's not true. Because you're still focused on everybody else around you and making everything easier for them.
Correct.
And so you're making like your own health, like the health of your body that you live in, that you don't get to trade in, making that basically about other people and the convenience factor about being around them and doing what you have to do for work.
I feel like this turned from a podcast to an intervention real
It
fast.
kind of did, yeah. I wonder what the reviews and the engagement is going to be.
Hey, at least they get... This is my whole thing. When you asked me to do this, I was like, you know what? Like, I think we do best when it's just us. Like, my friendship with you is it's good, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think you and I just being us is way more entertaining than some forced, like, oh, this is what we're talking about today. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I want this podcast to be about, like, in general, is, like, yeah, I have questions and I have outlines oftentimes, but, like, most of the time I just really want it to be a conversation that, like, I don't know if it'll help anybody, but it'll at least, like, either be entertainment or allow someone to ask more questions of themselves. And that's why I ask questions of you like that, is because the more questions we ask ourselves, the better we have the ability to just become better
100%.
And, like, learn more about ourselves. And the more we learn more, the more self-aware we can become. And you're very, like, you say, like, I'm very self-aware, but you're not self-aware to the point where you can, like, make the decision that you know is best for you.
Correct. I struggle with not knowing what's right and wrong, but knowing the good path, right? Like, we've all made weird decisions in life where it's like you look back and you're like, did I really make the right decision?
Yeah.
The older I have gotten, it's been like, okay, like, this is where you've gotten and it's led you here, but you don't want to go down a wrong path to where it just completely fucks up your life.
Right, but the more we think about, like, oh, I don't want to go through a wrong path or down a wrong path, that's, like, it's almost, like, confirming that, like, we're meant to go down that wrong path in my mind. Like, everybody is making mistakes.
Yep.
Literally everybody. Everybody around us, no matter who they are, no matter how successful they are, how much money they're making, they're all making mistakes.
Yep.
Some mistakes are much more public than others, and some are much more obvious and devastating, but everyone's making mistakes. But if you can get better at like, getting through the mistake and learning from the mistake and not making the same mistake over and over again, that's when you truly grow and you're able to, like, look at yourself from above and see, like, wow, I did all of that. But the reason I asked you, like, when did that diet and style of training work for you last? And you said, like, several years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I asked that, is because, like, it doesn't it's not going to work anymore.
Correct.
Like the way that it did back then. And it didn't really work back then, if you really think about it, because look at where you're at now. So you're trying to start over again.
Yeah, you're saying it didn't work due to the fact that I ended up where I was, to where I was unhappier with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it would have worked, I would have consistently stuck to it forever.
Exactly.
You're not wrong.
I know.
Fucking, I've built my life on this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's hard for me, right? And I think a lot of people struggle with this. You know how everybody feels like the high school is like the best times of their life?
Not everyone feels like that.
Well, I've met a lot of people, and it's just
right.
Like, those are the golden.
Those are the people that peaked in high school.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I would say it's comparable to that. My happiest times in my life before having a kid was dieting, competing, focusing on just me, all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But then you let other people in.
Yeah.
And you let other people dictate your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've always gotten so mad at people that are like, hey, you're training too long.
Yeah.
I would never agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't believe in overtraining. I think everybody's body is a little bit different. And, you know, like, if you and I worked out, say, an hour and a half, right? You definitely have way more better mind-muscle connection than I do.
Because I choose to.
Yeah. Oh, I've been getting high before my workouts lately. I'm getting better.
Okay.
but it's like, the aspect is everybody's body's a little different.
For sure.
And it's like, I don't sweat normally. Like,
right.
I just get red. It's just, it runs in my family.
But
it's
sweat isn't really an indication that you're, like, having a successful workout or you have better mind-muscle connection. Mind-muscle connection and, like, engagement is something you can learn if you pull your head out of your ass and stop, like, trying to train like Doug.
Yeah.
You know, like, 20 reps, sets, as heavy as possible isn't necessarily the best thing for you, but you do it anyway because you want to one-up him because of some little rule you have.
Numbers.
Exactly. So the you at your best is going to be when you can train in a way that works for you, that you can train like forever.
Yeah.
That you can train like when you're 50, 60, whatever. Because, like, yeah, obviously people change over time. Like, I'm not always going to train exactly how I do now, but you learn as you go. And instead of trying to always live in the past of, like, what used to work for me. Because that's literally what everybody says who is in a place where they don't like. I'm doing this way because it's always worked for me. Well, if it always worked for you, you would still be doing it and you wouldn't be starting over all the time.
Well, it's like, I miss working in a supplement store, but like there's people that just buy Optimum Nutrition. I think that is the most common one I can notice, right? It's the most readily available. And when I used to work in like a supplement store, it's like the person that came in for that was just a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
But they would try to like, they're better than you because they're taking Optimum.
Yeah.
They wouldn't speak to you. And I always remember I would pull back and I'd be like, okay, so you're taking Optimum. They'll be like, yeah, it's the best. I was like, how do you like your results on that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny because you can get in. It's not the protein that sucked. It's that this person is so, you're ingrained to what you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
That applies to every aspect of your life.
Exactly.
It's not the fucking protein. It's the fact that you're probably doing the same fucking workouts all the time. Like my current situation is like I'm testing out more shit for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
Less impact on my knees, less impact on my back, just from fucking inflammation and just weirdness. But it's just like I'm pretty consistent again. And it's like I've never missed a week in the gym. I've never missed shit. I don't go more than 2 days without going. But do I really think that every time I'm in the gym I'm doing something useful? Probably not. Like realistically, like I'll go in there and I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna do legs today, and then I get sidetracked. I'm like, I did 2 hours of cardio.
Yeah.
Probably not the best.
I think the move from like where you're at now, where you're actually starting to get consistent again, to something like 0 to 60 is like, yeah, you could get results, but as soon as you stop that, because you're gonna get burnt out, you're gonna injure yourself, you're gonna have life come up where that's not possible anymore, right? That's where that becomes like something that's just like an addiction that you just keep going back to whenever you get kind of off your path.
100%.
And so that's why, like, you have your deadline, you're going to do whatever you want, you're an adult, but at the end of the day, like, what if Liv came to you and said, Daddy, I want to lose 20 pounds. Obviously, she's not going to do that when she's 7. She's going to do that when she's a teenager, right? Maybe she gains some weight and she is unhappy with herself. And she says, I'm going to try this thing I found online, this influencer, wherever life will be at that point, if we even have influencers, but we probably will. I hope not. But, like, what if she were to do the same thing and say, I want to try this, and it's a carbon copy of what you're talking about doing? You'd probably not be super supportive, right? Because it's not good for her. Or am I wrong?
I don't know. It truly depends. There's a lot more to that. I would want to know like what her diet is, how she's training, what she's done to recover.
Right, if it's something that makes sense for her.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking you, is this something that really, truly makes sense for you in present day with all of your present day goals of health and longevity, not bodybuilding?
How old would she be?
16.
It's such a hard thing because it's like,
yeah.
I feel like you need to fuck up.
For sure, but like, think about, when I ask that question, I think about like all of the women that I coach now who tried to do stuff like that when they were in their teens, through their 20s, because they did that once, they saw some results, or they continued to try different things, and they've spent their entire lives doing that. And now they're 40, they're obsessed with the scale.
Yeah.
Where the scale goes up 1 pound and they cry over it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking you, is because like,
fucking attack me there.
Don't
talk about me.
Do you want that to happen? Just like, obviously, like, I don't want it to happen to you, so I'm asking like, do you want it to happen to her?
No.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So like, leading by example as Superman dad, with leading with health.
Yeah.
It's just something to consider. You can do what you want, but.
Okay, mommy Rachel was fucking parented me. I'm just a fucking single dad over here.
I'm not gonna have kids, but I do this just as a way to lead.
Did you ever give your niece her present?
My niece? Oh yeah. So I had like this big gift box of stuff to send my whole family for Christmas, including my niece, and I had all these toys in it that she probably already aged out of by the time I sent it to her, because I sent it like in May instead of in December. So yeah, I'm just not good at stuff like that. So yeah, oh well. But Anyway, we gotta go work out and eat a pre-workout meal first.
I hope.
And then work out.
Steve just, I'm going to call him out on this. He just texted me and said, the weather's so nice, we're going to go swim.
Okay.
So I hope we can get to the gym.
Thanks, guys, for listening. Really happy to have you here. I'm glad that we got to talk and catch up. And I hope you make the right decision.
I hope you clean up your fucking life.
I hope you clean up your act. I really believe in you, I promise.
No,
I'm hard on you because I love you.
I know, I love you too. We'll be good. Maybe I'll come back when I made my decision.
Yeah,
and be like,
come
hey, David,
back for
you're 40 pounds less.
David Dodrill Part 2 next year, or whenever you come back to Texas.
Yeah, I'll be here a lot.
Okay. Like and subscribe. Bye, guys.